Millionaire CEO insults black waitress as stupid and instantly loses $200 million deal. Don't touch me, you stupid black girl. The words hit harder than a slap that never came. They shattered the quiet elegance of the Four Seasons Beverly Hills like a gunshot in a library. The sound of those words made the gilded banquet hall shrink for a heartbeat. Forks froze midair. Polite laughter splintered. The jazz band hung between two notes. Phones tilted discreetly. Cameras open but silent. Already capturing the moment power exposed its darkest side. Carter Drake, 38, millionaire CEO of Drake Nova Technologies, didn't blink. He adjusted his cufflinks like fixing a loose screw in a machine, annoyed at the drops of Bordeaux staining his bespoke sleeve. Across from him sat Elliot Stone, 72, the infamous investor behind Stone Holdings, known as the Silent Storm, speaking little, observing much, and striking with decisions like a gavel. Between them sat $200 million, a deal that could reshape both technology and finance. Naomi Bennett, 26, stood steady with a towel in one hand, a water bottle in the other. She didn't cry, didn't defend herself, didn't apologize again. Her silence wasn't surrender. It was a choice. She drew in a thin, measured breath, stepped half a pace back, and placed the only thing she had left on the table. Her dignity. Several at the neighboring table froze, eyes unable to name what they felt. A young VP from Drake Nova let out a nervous laugh, thin as thread, hoping to stitch shut a tear widening by the second. Elliot Stone set his fork down very slowly. He didn't speak, but the weight of his silence filled the room. Carter leaned forward, his tone rehearsed and smooth. Winners don't get distracted. They focus, they control. A few heads nodded out of habit, not agreement. But control was no longer his. Tonight, it belonged to the quiet cameras, and to the hearts that had heard his words echo across the room. Naomi resumed her work as if no quake had struck. She moved by an invisible map. Elders first, assistants before bosses, investors before hosts, Carter last. Small details like needles, and sometimes it's the tiniest needle that bursts the balloon of power. Carter noticed the order, his jaw tightening. He didn't thank her. He muttered through clenched teeth, low enough to seem private, sharp enough to leave a mark. "Still learning your place, I see." Another wire pulled taut in the air. Stone tilted his head, exchanging a glance with his aide. The aide stepped back, phone in hand, and slipped out a side door. No one knew what words were passed. Only time, always loyal to the patient, would reveal this as the signal. As Naomi refilled Carter's glass, his hand suddenly clamped onto her wrist. Not enough to hurt at once, but tight enough to deliver the message. When grown men are talking, you stand still like the help you are. His breath carried the warmth of wine. This wasn't a slip of the tongue anymore, it was signed in action. The room remembered. Naomi lifted her gaze, steady. No tremble, no retreat. "Yes, sir, I understand." Her voice flat, unbent. She slipped her wrist free, moved on to the next guest with seamless grace, like a musician continuing the melody though a string had been struck. That seamlessness, the ability to hold tempo, made it clear who truly conducted the music tonight. A whisper in English, "It's time," fell from Elliot Stone's lips into his aide's ear as he set his utensils down a second time. Not a threat, not theater, just the moment. Carter kept droning about post-merger synergies, EBITDA, doubling ROI in 18 months. But the numbers now floated like kites cut loose. The anchor of the evening had shifted, from red wine on a sleeve to how one human treats another. Phones around the room buzzed faintly. Alerts, headlines, the first links spreading. Naomi moved along the edge of the table, picking up a fallen colored pencil for a little girl and setting it gently back with a thin smile. Stone saw it. He always saw the details others missed, the details that define decency. Carter looked at Naomi as if she were a period to be placed where he chose, but tonight, that period moved itself. Fury flashed like fireworks in his eyes, then died, leaving only a rigid smile. He opened his mouth to add a joke, some scrap to claw back the room. But the room was no longer his. Dignity had reclaimed its place, at the center of a dinner where $200 million was now nothing more than a backdrop for values laid bare. Elliot Stone rose. He didn't tap his glass, didn't clear his throat. He simply stood, like a milestone placed on a path. The entire room stopped chewing, stopped pretending. He looked at Naomi and she met his gaze. Level, not behind anyone's back. In that moment, without a word, the balance shifted. Before becoming the eye of a media storm, Naomi Bennett had lived through smaller storms more persistent, more grinding. She had been adopted by Elliot Stone at 7, after a childhood marked by an absent father and too many nameless voids. Mrs. Stone, the gentle woman with prematurely silver hair, was the warmest embrace Naomi had ever known, but cancer stole her away while Naomi was still in high school. After the funeral, the house grew frighteningly wide. Naomi became sister, then mother, to Eli Bennett, her 10-year-old brother with cerebral palsy. Her blood kin she fought to keep by her side, no matter how jagged the rocks of law and reality. "We are family," she said, and Elliot Stone nodded, signing the papers to make it true in law, as it already was in heart. Naomi had once been a star on the track. Her strides cut the wind, the roar of the crowd shrinking with every lap. Scholarships waiting like tickets out of poverty. But Eli's therapy schedule couldn't wait. Rent didn't pause for applause. She folded her running shoes, tucked them in a box marked "Someday," and began stacking shifts. Mornings at a cafe, afternoons at a shop, nights at restaurants. 6 days a week. 2 double shifts. A smile for customers, a hug for Eli, and a schedule taped to the fridge mapping every therapy hour, every pill. Elliot Stone never pressed Naomi to change her last name. "Keep your name if you wish," he told her. Naomi kept Bennett, like a river running through everything she did. Elliot offered her a soft seat at Stone Holdings, a safe, steady post. Naomi shook her head. "I want to understand how power works in places where it forgets it's being watched. I want to climb from the basement to the roof." And she applied on her own to the 4 seasons, into the world of serving the elite. Invisibility is armor, she told herself the first day she tied on the apron. When people don't see you, they are honest. They say what they'd never say to a camera. They do things they think no one notices. Naomi learned the room's rhythm, who preferred sparkling too still, who tipped up front as thanks, who held tips back like invisible reins. She memorized seating charts like her own palm, knew Elliot avoided salt and liked his meat medium, and Carter Drake was addicted to safe-year vintages of Chateau Margaux. 2 days before the banquet, Naomi checked every glass's tilt, every candle's height, every fold in the tablecloth. She wasn't preparing for a service slip. She was preparing for the moral failure that could strike at any table where power is used to being deferred to. She wanted to see if, in a $200 million test, values would outweigh valuation. That night, when fate tilted a Bordeaux glass, Naomi did every professional reflex right. Apologized, blotted, replaced. But Carter's words fell like rivets hammering through all her discipline. That wasn't a slip. It was a stance. And when his hand closed on her wrist at the table's edge, the last disguise of the story dropped. The room saw. Elliot saw. The phone saw. What Naomi did next wasn't dramatic, but it was hardest of all. She held tempo. She poured water for the elders, smiled as she returned a colored pencil to a little girl, nodded at a coworker trembling in fear. Each small gesture was a weight on the other side of an unseen scale, the side named dignity. She knew some would say one more apology would have fixed it. But Naomi, raised in storms, knew not every stain washes with water. Some fade only with accountability. On the other side, Carter revved his sales pitch. 2-quarter integration, double ROI in 18 months, distribution synergy. Numbers shot out like cannon fire. But listeners no longer stood in that trench. They had fallen back to the moment just past, measuring the man with the simplest gauge. Does he respect or does he despise? Elliot Stone set down his utensils once. It's time. And again after the wrist grab. The second was the ignition. Naomi recalled what Elliot had taught her long ago. When someone defines themselves through action, don't argue with their words. Accept the confession they've just given. Tonight, Carter confessed twice, once in language, once in deed. And Stone, weighing $200 million, understood this wasn't about buying technology anymore. It was about buying a culture. A culture of contempt is a systemic risk. Phones began blinking around the room. A financial journalist in attendance had already tagged the timestamp. On Drake Nova's internal chat, messages cascaded. Anyone confirm from Beverly Hills? Don't tweet. PR drafting ABC statements. Meanwhile, Naomi never altered her breath. She knew tonight might begin a new chapter of her life, but any chapter should start from composure. Elliot rose. He turned to Carter, his voice no louder than casual conversation. Before we talk numbers, I want to observe values. And before we move forward, there is someone very important I want you to meet properly. The banquet hushed. Carter forced a cracked smile. You mean your counsel or your VP of investments? Elliot didn't answer. He simply gestured to the far side of the room. Naomi stepped forward without apron, without tray, just herself. She stopped beside Elliot, not behind. No one in the room knew what her next words would do to the path of $200 million. But everyone felt the drop approaching, like the air before a storm. And at the edge of the table, the Bordeaux glass sat still, leaving a faint red stain on the white cloth, both literal and symbolic. Some stains mark the surface, but it is the fabric beneath that decides whether the cloth can still hold the light of a candle. Elliot Stone stood tall, no glass tapped, no permission asked, no ritual borrowed. He simply stood, and the room itself stopped. Forks hovered in midair, candlelight flickered. A string of music froze mid-note. As Naomi Bennett walked from the back of the room toward him, no apron, no tray, the phones tilted further, instinct of an age where everything is recorded. Before we continue, I want to introduce someone important. Elliot spoke softly enough to be intimate, yet clear enough to carry. Naomi stopped at his side, not behind him. This is Naomi Bennett, my daughter. I adopted her when she was 7. She kept the name Bennett because that's her story, and I am proud of it. A soundless ripple swept the room. Slowed blinks, breaths held, chairs shifting. Those who once saw Naomi as background to power suddenly realized the portrait had a new subject. Elliot turned to Carter Drake. Naomi chose to work here not because she needed the money, but because she wanted to understand, directly, how people in power treat those they think beneath them. Tonight, you've given her an answer. Not harsh, not accusing. He simply set a mirror on the table. And on the other side, Carter saw himself twice. Once in words, once in his hand. Carter forced a smile, limp as a soaked shoelace. Mr. Stone, this has been misunderstood. She spilled wine on my suit. You said what you believed. Elliot cut in, voice steady. And you did what you thought you had the right to do. He turned toward the room. When characters tested in public, consequences should also arrive in public. A chair scraped back like a small exclamation point. One guest left, then another. A group rose in silence. Power tonight required no speeches. It shifted through the act of walking away. At a back table, a senator tucked behind a silk tie froze, glancing from Naomi to Elliot, then at Carter with the eyes of a man calculating risk, not attending dinner. Elliot's aide returned, whispering. Elliot nodded. Somewhere, 3 lines of text began forming in a newsroom draft. Stone Holdings withdraws from $200 million deal with Drake Nova after public incident in Beverly Hills. The story wasn't live yet, but the reaction had started. A financial reporter in the room messaged, "Need second source?" An editor replied, "Video?" "Yes." The order went out for a hot push, medium-high, meaning publish early, edit later. Naomi never looked at the cameras. She looked instead at the little girl at the nearby table, the one she'd returned a colored pencil to earlier. The girl smiled, innocent, untouched by the weight of adult politics. Naomi nodded slightly, as if reminding herself why she chose composure over reaction. Carter clawed for footing. Elliot, $200 million is only the beginning. We're talking scale, growth. One small misunderstanding. This isn't misunderstanding. A seasoned investor at a side table interjected, voice low but amplified by agreement around him. This is cultural blind spot. He didn't work for Stone, nor for Carter, but ran a thriving fund. Words like that crack masks in one stroke. The air shifted. A female VP of Drake Nova checked her watch, quietly pulled out her phone. No tweets, nothing. In the comms channel, the PR team drafted 3 statements. A. Apology if offense was caused. B. Apology, assume responsibility. Promise internal review. C. Apology, concrete change, third-party cultural audit. Legal cautioned, avoid language admitting liability. PR replied, avoidance costs with the public. At the center sat Carter, usually a swift decider, now stranded between A and B like a man staring at 2 downhill roads. Apologize publicly. A voice reached Carter from Naomi. Not through a mic, but through timing. You insulted publicly. You apologize publicly. The words cut through the air and landed in the open mouths of phones, transforming into captions within minutes. Carter's eyes darted, searching for a ladder to climb down with dignity, but his dignity was already spilled across the Bordeaux-stained cloth. Elliot ended with the smallest gesture possible. He sat down. No verdict, no applause. Yet the entire room knew the sentence had been passed by the withdrawal of $200 million. 12 minutes later, phones around the room buzzed in unison. Stone Holdings exits Drake Nova deal. A breaking headline. A 30-second clip circulated, frame perfect on the moment Carter's hand gripped Naomi's wrist. A hashtag sprouted, $, dignity, over deals, $. People didn't need to know EBITDA to see what was wrong. Carter called the chairman of the board. Don't react yet, I'll handle this. The voice on the other end sighed. You control products well, Carter. People, you just proved you don't control. The call ended with 3 words. Back to office. Now. Naomi turned to Elliot. His eyes asked, "You all right?" She nodded. Not victory, not triumph, just visibility. At the edge of the room, a few other servers lifted their gaze, gratitude and strength shining there. They had just learned a lesson no management book ever captured. Dignity can reprice an entire dinner, a CEO, and $200 million. The room dissolved slowly. Chairs scraped like wind. The jazz band played its final note, then silence. On the white cloth, the red wine stain remained. Signature of the night. Written not in ink but in truth. When Carter Drake left the hotel, the Beverly Hills night felt thinner. The thinness of a nerve pressed again and again. A black sedan slid down the boulevard. The driver's phone screen flashing news. Stone Holdings pulls out of $200 million deal with Drake Nova. Carter closed his eyes for 3 seconds, opened them, and called the head of PR. "Statement B," he ordered. "Live in 20 minutes." On the other end came hesitation. "Statement B still lacks concrete action. The public will tear it apart." Carter cut in. "Just post it." Inside Drake Nova's war room, 7 people huddled around 3 screens. One tracked breaking news, another scrolled long-form coverage, another monitored comments. The emotional tide was running red. Sorry if offense was caused? Not if, it was. PR adjusted the second sentence. "We take responsibility for tonight's incident and our..." Legal interjected. "Change, take responsibility to deeply regret." PR sighed, retyped. The social media manager asked, "Do we add a photo?" "No. The photo is their video." Carter dialed Naomi Bennett. "I want to apologize," he said, voice strung tight as a violin string. "Privately, I mean it." Naomi's reply was short. "You insulted publicly. Apologize publicly." That answer, passed through an aide, overheard by a journalist, then tweeted by a guest, became the second nail sealing shut the door on private fixes. 9:57 p.m. Drake Nova's official account posted, "We deeply regret tonight's incident. The company will conduct an internal review." The backlash surged like waves. Who's apologizing, the company or the man? Review what, when the video is right here? If this is culture, no review can fix it. The most liked comments all mentioned $200 million, not mourning money lost, but quantifying the cost of a worthless act. Meanwhile, Drake Nova's after-hours stock price flickered like a leaf. The numbers didn't need to be precise to tell the story. They only needed a direction. Down. A partner fund froze a pending addendum. A major retailer delayed its rollout of Drake Nova's API feature. "We have serious concerns," they wrote. In markets, concerns means withdrawal. 10:40 p.m. The board convened an emergency call. 12 boxes lit the screen. The chairman opened. "We have an ethical failure creating systemic risk. 3 questions. 1. Operational impact. 2. Interim succession plan. 3. 24-hour response framework." A member, a former CPG CEO, cut bluntly, "We cannot defend one man at the cost of the company's entire culture." Another hesitated. "But Carter has delivered major deals. Should we allow room to recover?" In-house counsel set the marker. Delay turns risk into long-term crisis. 11:11 p.m. A brand sponsorship worth 8 figures was suspended. 11:39 p.m. A product VP resigned for personal reasons. 11:52 p.m. Advisor told a reporter anonymously, "What happened tonight didn't surprise insiders." Pieces poured in, assembling a picture no PR team could redraw. Carter read it all in the car. He called the chairman. Let me record a video apology. Now, I'll tell the truth. The chairman replied, "Do it. But you no longer have the power to save yourself alone." Carter went silent. The word power, what he had built his life around, slipped out of his grasp for the first time. 11:47 p.m. The board voted to suspend Carter Drake indefinitely. The draft announcement carried one bloodless line. While we evaluate the incident, Mr. Carter Drake will step aside from his duties as CEO. 12:14 a.m. It revoked Carter's internal access. His Slack icon turned gray. His keycard lit red. The permissions that once opened every boardroom door couldn't even call an elevator to the 32nd floor. Across town, Naomi eased Eli Bennett into bed. "Oh, you okay, sis?" he asked. Naomi answered, "As okay as when you first stood up last year." Both laughed softly. Naomi sat by him, phone buzzing nonstop in silent mode. A coworker had texted, "Thank you for tonight." A stranger wrote, "My daughter says she wants to work like you someday." Amid chaos, small threads of light appeared, and they were enough. By dawn, morning headlines queued up. Domino pulls away from Drake Nova. Culture or individual? When a dinner costs more than $200 million. One paper used the exact word an editor had typed into last night's notes: fallout. Not an ending, but the decay phase after a moral detonation. At Drake Nova's headquarters, the 32nd floor boardroom sat empty, leather chairs gleaming unused. A paper note taped to the door read, "All hands, 2 p.m., interim leadership." At Stone Holdings, Elliot arrived early, brewed tea, opened a new file titled Humanity Program, Naomi Bennett. He wasn't putting out fires. He was building structures so fire would never spark from places people considered too small to matter. Carter stood alone in the parking lot, his keycard's black screen reflecting a tired face. He thought of the line he had barked into every meeting. Hesitation is failure. Tonight, he had hesitated, not over numbers, but over truth. And failure, as always, arrived right on time. The dawn after Beverly Hills was not golden. It was just bright enough to reveal what remained after a moral detonation. Naomi Bennett walked through the security gates of Stone Holdings, her brand-new badge. Naomi Bennett, Director of Corporate Humanity, beeping softly against the reader. Glass hallways mirrored her figure. No apron, no tray, only herself in a navy blazer and flats made for working, not enduring. At reception, eyes lifted, curious, admiring, skeptical. One assistant whispered, "Nepotism?" Another replied, "Let's see what she does first." Elliot Stone waited in a small conference room, windows catching the first streaks of sunlight sweeping the bay. He poured tea, slid it toward Naomi. "This title is not for display, it's authority," he said. "You'll have your own budget, the right to pull an emergency brake on any project if dignity is at risk, and direct access to the board." He paused. "Words matter, but only structure holds a promise. We build both." Naomi opened her notebook. On the first page, 3 lines, firm strokes. Listen, illuminate, renew. Listen. Mandatory listening sessions in every office. San Francisco, Singapore, Berlin, Austin, even the janitorial teams in Los Angeles. No cameras, no direct managers, anonymous transcripts, but required response within 14 days. Illuminate. Creation of a dignity index. A quarterly dashboard combining attrition, complaints, underground surveys, and 3 60-degree respect ratings. Results published transparently inside the company. Renew. 40-hour leadership training on culture and dignity, certified, fail, bonus cut. Employees gain on-the-spot stop work authority if dignity is violated, no retaliation. I need a team, Naomi said, not PR spin. Choose your people, Elliot answered. The door opened. Marla Quinn, veteran HR, silver hair, fierce eyes, stepped in. Behind her, Diego Ramos, data scientist, laptop covered in stickers, data tells stories, and Aisha Cole, former labor organizer, warm baritone voice. Naomi outlined, "We measure what we want to change, but numbers are only maps. People are the road." Diego nodded. "I'll have the Dignity Index dashboard up by week's end." Aisha added, "We need a multilingual hotline. 48 hours to respond, 14 days to act." Marla said, "And whistleblower protection." Written, signed by the interim CEO. The second meeting of the day with CFO Graham Pierce was taut as a bowstring. "What's the ROI?" he pressed. "What's the cost? Where's the cut?" Naomi set her pen down. "First-year cost, $3 million. ROI is retention, fewer lawsuits, lower partnership risk. Last night, one act burned $200 million in 15 minutes. We exist to prevent that burn at the root." Graham leaned back, fingers drumming, not nodding, but no longer objecting. In PR, Selena Cho sketched defenses. Outside, they're already saying nepotism. Naomi breathed evenly. "I didn't ask for this seat. Last night forced me visible. I'll earn it with action." Selena smiled. "Then let action speak before press does." At noon, Naomi walked through the service entrance door, old sign reading "Staff Only." She stopped, took a marker and wrote over it. "Employee Entrance." A guard blinked, then smiled. "That sign's been there 10 years, Naomi answered. "Then let it last 10 more minutes." Her phone buzzed. A voicemail from Carter Drake. Hoarse, clipped. "Naomi, I want to meet privately." "I know I was wrong. I want to apologize." Naomi looked at the screen. She drafted a reply, short, precise. "You insulted publicly. Apologize publicly. If serious, 1. Name the behavior. 2. No if, but. 3. Commit to measurable repair. Training Frontline Worker Fund re-audit. 4. Accept career consequences." She didn't send it. Not from hesitation, but because the man had to write his own words. By afternoon, Naomi was rehearsing tomorrow's all-hands speech. Title on the screen, Power versus Leadership. First bullet, yesterday I was called stupid. Today, I choose to speak. Beneath, 6 commitments. Stop work authority for any employee witnessing a dignity violation. Dignity Index published quarterly, with goals and consequences. Dignity clause in partner contracts. Violation, suspension. Whistleblower protection, 0 retaliation. 24/7 hotline. Repair program. Listen pay repair. Proper apology. Mandatory training, community. Service, 6 months oversight. 40-hour leadership, certificate, failure, bonus cut and promotion freeze. Aisha entered, handing a list of anonymous staff questions. If I report bullying by a boss, will I face retaliation? Do contract workers get the same protection as full-time? If a major partner breaches the dignity clause, will we really cancel? Naomi grouped them, wrote clear answers with timelines. Toward evening, Eli called on FaceTime, his round face glowing like a small sun. Did you tell them yet? Tomorrow I speak, Naomi smiled. Remember to breathe in, count 4. Yes, like when you practice standing. And if they fall? Then we help them up, Naomi answered. But if they push others down, we stop them. Outside, media cameras already waited, tripods planted before stone holdings. Naomi stood by the window, watching their red lights blink. She didn't go out. Today wasn't for the press. Today was for fixing structures, drafting promises strong enough to hold under strain. Before shutting down her screen, she taped a note across it. Dignity is operational. Dignity was no slogan. It was the work itself. 9:55 a.m. The temporary studio on the 12th floor counted down. The red light blinked on. The camera sat still like an eye. On the screen in front of Naomi, the number appeared. 12,487 watching live. From San Francisco to Singapore, Berlin, Austin, the janitorial crew in Los Angeles, and night shift engineers in Dublin. Elliot Stone stood behind the lens, arms folded. No prompts, no teleprompter. Truth was the script. Naomi stepped forward half a beat, inhaled 4 counts as she'd promised Eli. Yesterday, I was called stupid. Not because I made a professional mistake, but because someone believed a title made them more human than me. Yesterday, I was silent. Today, I choose to speak. She paused, letting the virtual room breathe with her. There is a difference between power and leadership. Power can take away. Leadership must be earned. I did not grab this chair. I was entrusted with it, and I am responsible for keeping it worthy. She didn't recount the Beverly Hills night. Everyone already knew. Instead, she spoke of how the company would live from this day forward. 1. Starting now, every employee has stop work authority. If you witness a violation of dignity, you have the right to say, "Stop," and we will stop. No one will be punished for pulling the brake in the right place. If anyone retaliates, I will be the first to stand up. 2. We are creating the Dignity Index, not for show. Every quarter, every unit will see its score. Abnormal attrition, complaints, respect surveys, 360 reviews. If you don't meet the mark, there will be consequences. Lost bonuses, frozen promotions, mandatory retraining. 3. The dignity clause in every partner contract. If a partner fails, we suspend until they fix it. No excuses about size. The bigger they are, the more they must be right. 4. Whistleblower protection. A 24/7 multilingual hotline. 48 hours for a first response, 14 days for an action plan. Any hint of retaliation, we investigate immediately. 5. The Listen, Pay, Repair program. Anyone who violates dignity, even something small like a cruel joke, must listen to the affected person, pay through training and community service, and repair with measurable commitments. No sorry if, no but, only accountability. 6. A 40-hour leadership certificate. Anyone managing people must pass. Fail, no bonus, no promotion. Leadership is a life skill, not a privilege. The chat on the right scrolled. Finally, someone said this. I used to be afraid to report. Stop work sounds like a dream. Naomi lifted her gaze. I know some are thinking, what about cost? Last night, one act burned $200 million in a single evening. We can't afford to do nothing. The Q&A light switched on. First question, Maya Tan from Singapore. What if a boss mocks my accent? Naomi, pull the brake, call the hotline, we'll protect you. That manager's certificate will be suspended until they repair. Rosa Alvarez, Janitorial Team, LA. Do contract workers get the same protection as full-time? Yes. Dignity doesn't ask what type of contract you have. It asks if you respect a human being. Lucas Weber, Engineer Berlin. Will we get labeled woke and lose partners? We may lose those who don't value dignity. We will win those who do. Reputation is the filter. Jordan Price, CS San Francisco. What if the violator is a major client? The dignity clause applies to clients too. We suspend until they fix it. Money does not dictate our values. Our values dictate our money. An anonymous employee posted, "Outsiders say you were handed this role." Naomi nodded, looked straight into the lens. "I didn't ask to be seen. Last night made me visible. I will prove through results that this chair is not a gift. It is a commitment. And if I fail, pull the brake on me too." Applause echoed back through speakers from offices, uneven but real. An Austin engineer unmuted. "Thank you for naming the problem." A longtime Dublin manager said, "I'll sit for certification this week." Elsewhere, Carter Drake sat before his screen, dark circles under his eyes. The fourth draft of his apology video paused. He heard Naomi say, "No ifs or buts." On his desk lay a handwritten letter, the first in years. "Naomi, I said what cannot be justified. I did what cannot be excused. No ifs, no buts. I am sorry. I accept all consequences and will join repair if allowed." He didn't know if Naomi would ever see it. He only knew to delete the 3 if-but lines from his video script. At the end of the live stream, Naomi didn't raise her hands in triumph. She bowed once, softly, and left the frame. Elliot waited at the door, eyes both proud and questioning. Ready to weather the storm? Naomi gave a thin smile. The storm was yesterday. Today is building the shelter. Her inbox flooded with volunteer requests for the humanity program, from engineers, accountants, security guards, even Rosa from the night crew asking to be an ambassador. On Slack, #DignityIsOperational surged to the top. Marla sent a report. Hotline received 37 reports in the first 2 hours, many small but sharp, mocking accents, cutting people off, uninvited to meetings, all categorized and queued for response. Outside, some partners sent congratulations. Others pressed hard questions. One major firm proposed a bilateral dignity clause. Graham Pierce texted Naomi one line, "ROI is showing." Naomi smiled. Sometimes profit doesn't rise first on a chart. It rises in how people treat each other. At day's end, Eli FaceTimed, his face round and glowing like the sun. "Did you count to 4? "I did," Naomi said. "Did they clap?" "They did," Naomi replied, "not because I shouted, but because I listened." Beyond the window, the city lit up. On her desk, the note remained, "Dignity is operational." Today, it had truly begun to run, and somewhere, a pen once meant to sign a $200 million contract had found a new purpose, signing a pledge that no amount of money could replace. That morning, Carter Drake's apartment was as quiet as a soundproof room. Sunlight slipped through the blinds and landed on the camera set up in the middle of the table. Draft 5 of his apology script sat open on the laptop. 3 if-but-ought paragraphs already blacked out. Next to it lay a short, handwritten note. "I said what cannot be justified. I did what cannot be accepted. No ifs, no buts. I am sorry. I accept the consequences and I ask to join the Listen Pay Repair program if allowed." Carter read it again, his voice low from lack of sleep. He pressed record. The video lasted 2 minutes and 37 seconds. He looked straight into the lens. "That night, I insulted a woman. I also used my hand to demand silence. I was wrong. I will not excuse it. I will not say if or but. I have been suspended, and I am not asking to return. I ask to join the repair program designed by Naomi Bennett. I will listen to those I once dismissed. I will pay with time, labor, and money. I will repair with measurable action. I know $200 million left the table because of my behavior. I accept that responsibility." He posted the video on his personal account. locking comments for the first 24 hours to prevent it from turning into a shouting match. But the internet didn't need comments to decide. News outlets quoted each phrase: no ifs, buts, accept consequences, join, listen, pay repair. Some called it performance. Others said it's by the book. But in service worker groups, the line "I used my hand to demand silence" was shared most often, because it named the act exactly. By noon, Aisha Cole sent out a calendar invite, the first listening session. No cameras, no press, no PR. A rectangular room, chairs in a circle. On the table, water, notepads, pens, rules taped to the wall. 1. The affected speak first. 2. No interruptions. 3. No I only. 4. At the end, the person who caused harm gets 1 minute to say, "I will." Naomi Bennett opened without mentioning the Four Seasons night. Today is not to retell what everyone already saw. Today is to hear what our system makes people endure every day. A front desk worker told of being called "sweetie" and having her shoulder grabbed without consent. A line cook spoke about always having his accent mocked in meetings. Rosa Alvarez, from janitorial, shared how she had to clean up after meetings where people slammed water bottles on tables as if someone was meant to pick them up. The room was not loud. Carter sat listening, hands clasped, eyes steady on each speaker. When his 1 minute came, he didn't look at Naomi. He looked at Rosa. "I thought power was control. I didn't see it was trampling. That night I trampled. I will complete 120 hours of mandatory training, 200 hours of community service, and I propose creating a frontline fund to support mental health, scholarships, and wage improvements for frontline staff across our partner networks without my name on it." Aisha noted. But paying isn't just writing a check. Paying is submitting to oversight. Naomi added, and repair means changing how you make decisions. The second session ran that same afternoon, with managers observing. Diego Ramos displayed the test dashboard of the Dignity Index. Front desk attrition abnormally high. Average complaint response time 19 days, too long. Respect scores in some groups yellow flagged. "This is the map," Diego said. "The road is the people." Marla Quinn added, "We're adding dignity metrics into KPIs. If a manager's score falls below threshold, bonuses shrink proportionally." Day 3, Carter showed up at a partner restaurant kitchen to work a support shift. No cameras. He learned how to stack cutting boards, wipe prep tables, call orders without shouting. A head chef warned, "Don't touch the big knives." Carter chuckled awkwardly, stepped back. He was assigned dishwashing, hot water, grease, hands blistered. "Ridiculous," a young cook muttered. "He thinks washing trays fixes anything." Carter didn't answer. Aisha stood quietly in the corner, noting. No PR, no photos. Repair was not for display. That night, CFO Graham Pierce called Naomi. The Frontline Fund, where from? Naomi, from internal fines tied to major dignity violations plus 0.2% of net profits. Graham paused. Numbers work, no names on it. Naomi, no statues, only schedules. The board met about Carter's future. Before anyone asked, Carter sent a letter, resigning as CEO, pledging not to seek reappointment, agreeing to serve 6 months as unpaid advisor to the repair program if requested, and declining all outstanding bonuses. The chairman read it aloud, then let 30 seconds of silence settle. "This won't salvage his reputation," he said, "but it respects others." The vote was unanimous. Resignation accepted. Naomi received an email from a mid-level manager at Drake Nova. "I once stayed silent when a boss mocked a Filipino employee's accent. Today I spoke." An engineer sent a photo of Stop Work Authority, printed and taped outside a meeting room. Rosa wrote one line. Today, no one threw bottles on the table. Thank you. Late afternoon, Naomi passed by the service entrance at Stone Holdings, the sign now replaced with a polished one reading, Employee Entrance. She touched the edge, like greeting an old friend with a new name. Elliot Stone called, "Someone said we're just putting on a show." Naomi laughed. "They'll say that for a week. The index will speak for a quarter." Elliot, "And you'll speak for a lifetime." That night, Carter wandered aimlessly. He stopped at the back door of a hotel, where kitchen trash carts queued. The smell damp, the clang of metal closing. He no longer had any key card that could open the glass doors to the 32nd floor. But this steel door, into a world he had never stepped in, swung open as a worker pushed a cart out. Carter held it for him, bowed slightly. "Thanks," the man said. A small word, a small gesture, but sometimes the road back begins with the right nod at the right moment. Day 45. The big screen in Stone Holdings' boardroom lit up with the latest dashboard. Dignity Index V 1.1. Diego pointed, "Anonymous complaints down. 18% across 3 units since Stop Work Authority and basic training rolled out. Response time from 19 days down to 7. 3 stop work events logged. 2 resolved on the spot, 1 escalated to the independent committee." Marla added, "Front desk attrition down 6 points. Exit interviews show respect was the most repeated word." Graham gave a slight nod. Program cost $3.1 million YTD, litigation reserves lowered. One major partner asked for our sample dignity clause. Naomi jotted a note. Data equals signals. Culture equals journey. Just then, the call with Altura Retail, potential $20 million partner, began. Their boardroom flickered on screen. Their SVP, a fast-talking man, introduced his team. 2 managers, 1 engineer, and a young Indian staffer named Anaya. The meeting flowed smoothly until the SVP cut Anaya off. "Let someone with proper English present this part." The air shifted instantly. Naomi looked up but didn't get a word in. Jordan Price, CS San Francisco, raised his hand. "Stop work." Silence. Jordan stared into the camera. "We just witnessed a dignity violation, dismissing a speaker for her accent. By protocol, I request we pause to reset how this dialogue is conducted." On Altura's side, the SVP frowned. "It's just efficiency." Naomi stayed calm. "We don't save time by burning dignity. Our dignity clause applies before contracts are signed." The SVP exhaled. "If you're this strict, maybe we're not a fit." Graham Pierce, the same man who once asked, "What's the ROI?" slid in softly. "If you're not this strict, maybe we truly aren't a fit." Elliot Stone, silent till now, spoke. "We suspend talks for 7 days. If you wish to proceed, send a repair plan, leadership training, 0 retaliation commitment, and a guarantee that Anaya presents her full section." The call ended. Stone's room sat hushed like before a storm. Naomi turned to Jordan. "Thank you for pulling the brake." Jordan smiled faintly. "I counted 4 first." The room laughed. A new catchphrase had taken root. 3 days later, Altura sent a public apology to the project team, attaching a repair plan. 20-hour leadership training for managers, internal stop work policy, and a promise that Anaya would lead the technical segment in the next meeting. Selena Cho, PR, advised, "Continue, but monitor. Graham, $20 million is fine, not for the money, for the lesson." Naomi nodded. "A lesson has value if tested." Next slip, we walk. At the follow-up, Anaya opened the slides, her Indian-accented English sharp and clear. She explained seasonal demand forecasting and how Drake Nova's API would cut timeouts under load. The SVP didn't cut her off. He even asked respectful technical follow-ups. At the end, Anaya said, "Thank you for stopping the other day. I felt embarrassed. Now I feel respected." Naomi replied, "No one should have to thank anyone for what's basic, but thank you for continuing to speak." Meanwhile, Carter Drake was completing his Listen Pay Repair track. He logged 40 hours in leadership and dignity training, sitting in the middle row, not the back. 60 hours, kitchen support, 80 hours, warehouse shifts, and 20 hours at a community center. Silent, listening to frontline workers speak of their fear of retaliation. Marla monitored. Aisha gave feedback. At the end, Carter didn't ask for forgiveness. He asked to present a set of guidelines for other CEOs on how not to repeat his mistakes. No logo, no book deal, no TED Talk. Naomi reviewed and said one line, "Approved. Release under Creative Commons. Free for all." Public opinion split. Some called the saga cancel culture. Others called it accountability. Naomi avoided talk shows. Selena pressed, "Just once?" Naomi shook her head. "I'm not the story. The structure is the story." She wrote an internal memo titled, "When We Pull the Brake for Each Other." In it, she recapped 3 stop work cases: a meeting where a manager kept interrupting, corrected, proper apology made; a technical exchange where a junior was mocked, violator entered repair program; and the Altura call, a public test of the dignity clause. "The brake isn't to stop forever, it's to steer," she wrote. Eli Bennett got a new therapy schedule funded by the expanded Frontline Family Benefits in the Stone ecosystem. On video call, Eli stood 2 seconds longer before holding on. "Did you count 4? I count every day," Naomi said. Eli grinned. "Then count 5. Elliot Stone invited Naomi to a closed meeting. On the board, $200 million crossed out, replaced with the Dignity portfolio. Elliot said, "The $200 million didn't go to Drake Nova. We'll split it. $50 million into the Frontline Dignity Lab, investing in tech for frontline workers, flex scheduling, auto-translation, microaggression alerts in virtual meetings. $150 million into values, first deals, only fund teams that meet Dignity Index standards." He looked at Naomi. "You'll co-chair diligence. Values first, numbers second." Naomi didn't smile in triumph. She nodded, the same nod she gave at 4 Seasons that night when she handed a colored pencil back to a child. From the back, Marla scribbled, "When dignity becomes a deal condition, markets adapt." Graham added, "And ROI follows." That night, Naomi walked past another building service entrance. Its sign, once reading "Staff Only," now replaced with "Employee Entrance." A guard nodded to her as to a colleague, not a shadow. She texted the team, "Tomorrow, Altura pilot, track 3 metrics, speaking time, interruption ratio, escalation time." Diego dropped a green light emoji. Aisha has teeth. Selena has story. Graham has numbers. And Carter? He stood outside a community center listening to Rosa talk about the night shift. When the group dispersed, he asked, "How can I be useful besides not being in the way?" Rosa shrugged. "Here, pushing the cart is enough." Carter put his hands on the handle, pushed. No cameras, no applause, just the steady sound of rubber wheels rolling on tile. Some numbers are big, $200 million, printed in headlines. Others are small. 2 extra seconds of Eli standing. 3 minutes of Anaya speaking uninterrupted. etched quietly into daily life. Day 90 since the Four Seasons night. The main boardroom at Stone Holdings dimmed its lights, leaving only the glowing screens. Diego Ramos stood beside the digital board, presenting the Dignity Index V1.2. Graph lines dipped on complaints, rose on respect scores. Customer service attrition down 9 points, Diego reported. Response time on complaints from 19 days to 6. 7 stop work cases triggered. 5 resolved on the spot. 2 escalated to the independent committee. Naomi Bennett listened, pen tapping a steady rhythm on her notebook. Graham Pierce, CFO, added, "Program cost this quarter $3.9 million. Litigation reserve savings, $2.1 million. Retention impact, estimated plus $4.7 million. He paused, eyes on Naomi. ROI isn't just on the chart, it walks these halls. That same day was the first demo of the Frontline Dignity Lab, the $50 million fund. 3 sharp-edged tools for workplace life. Interruption Meter. A live meeting add-on that counts interruptions in real time, flashes a light when someone cuts in more than 3 times in 10 minutes, sends a private nudge. Privacy by design, no recordings, only counts. Accent Clarity Assist, real-time captions optimized for diverse accents, with a polite. Please repeat prompt if comprehension dips below threshold. Respect nudge, scans outgoing emails for sarcasm, blame phrases, suggests neutral. Alternatives before sending. Selena Cho, PR, sat in the back, no photos taken. She whispered, "We're not telling a feel-good story, we're letting the tools work." That afternoon, talks with Ravenna Logistics, projected $35 million per year contract, began. First half hour smooth. At minute 37, Ravenna's camera wobbled. A supervisor placed his hand on a contract worker's shoulder, pulling them out of frame. Jordan Price raised his hand. "Stop work." Stone's room fell silent. Jordan spoke slowly. There was unwanted physical contact. By clause, we pause 15 minutes to reset. Ravenna bristled. It was just arranging the frame. Aisha Cole replied, "Every time you say just, you erode the foundation. Reset or adjourn." 15 minutes later, Ravenna rejoined. This time, their COO appeared. "Apologies, we were wrong. We'll add training and issue an internal notice this week." Naomi didn't smile. She asked, "What's your measurement plan?" The COO laid out 60-day scorecards, anonymous surveys, anti-retaliation pledge. Graham looked at Naomi. She nodded. "Proceed, under monitoring." That same day, an op-ed labeled Stone Holdings woke capitalism. Selena shared the link in the group chat. Response: Naomi, no, we publish a white paper. That evening, her team released Dignity is Operational, Anonymized Data, 3 Stop Work Case Studies, ROI Risk Model, Rollout Guide, No Logo, Creative Commons, over 10,000 downloads in 48 hours, mostly from .biz, .edu, and even .gov addresses. A week later, Northbridge Media, a $60 million prospect in digital content distribution, invited Stone to pitch. The room, bright, interruption meter active in the corner. Mid-Q&A, one creative director quipped, "We're being too fragile. I need warriors, not feelings." The meter flashed yellow. 2 interruptions logged. He leaned in again when Northbridge's CEO raised his hand. "Stop work. We're new to this, but we want to learn. Let Anaya, from Altura, here to share, finish." The room softened. Anaya spoke clearly about how Accent Assist had let her lead a meeting without losing substance to interruptions. Afterwards, that creative director was asked to step down. Naomi called the Northbridge CEO privately. Don't execute him as an example. Use listen, pay, repair. Commit, monitor. If he repeats, then part ways. Silence for 3 beats. Then, thank you. Tough and fair. As partners faced their tests, Carter Drake kept walking his stageless path. He finished 200 hours of service, 120 hours training, 80 hours logistics. Marla verified every milestone. Aisha pressed hard, but fair. Rosa Alvarez took Carter on a night shift. Tonight, push carts with us. No talk unless needed. Carter nodded. At a tight corner, he stepped aside for a new worker. A small gesture, but for Carter, the man who once demanded space with a wrist grip, it was a turning point. On Stone's long table hung the Dignity Portfolio Blueprint, $150 million. Elliot Stone pointed to 7 boxes, a flexible shift platform for night workers, a multilingual meeting translation tool, a startup offering whistleblower protections, a fairness in speaking tracker for calls, a nudge app against demeaning language, and 2 female-founded ops tech companies with dignity index greater than 80. Graham said, "We're betting on people who use power the right way." Late night, Naomi read an email from a mid-level manager. "My team argues less. Not because we agree more, but because we don't need to tear each other down." An engineer sent a screenshot. Interruption meters stayed green the entire meeting. No one broke threshold. Jordan messaged, "I learned to count 4 before saying stop." That weekend, 4 Seasons Beverly Hills sent an invite, an industry seminar on operational dignity, requesting the very ballroom where it all began. Selena hesitated. Too sensitive. Elliot looked to Naomi. She said, "We go back." Not to celebrate, but to mark that the place of pain can also be the place of course correction. They agreed. Naomi stepped into rehearsal, saw new candles glinting on fresh white cloth, remembered the old Bordeaux stain like a signature. But tonight's linen didn't erase the past, it reframed it. If run right, the light can shine even on fabric once stained. She brushed the tabletop lightly, whispering to herself, "Dignity is operational," then turned away, ready for the final drop. 4 Seasons Ballroom, where everything once cracked open, tonight bore a new sign. Operational Dignity Summit. No red carpet, no posed photos. On stage, 3 chairs for the opening panel, a small table with a white candle, and in the corner the interruption meter glowing like a living pledge. The front row wasn't celebrities, it was frontline workers. Rosa Alvarez from janitorial, Hector the line cook, Maya Tan from Singapore, Anaya from Altura. Behind them sat Graham, Diego, Aisha, Marla, Selena. Elliot Stone in the middle, quiet as always. Naomi stepped out with no theme music. She began with silence. 1 beat, 2, 3, 4. The room breathed together. "Tonight," she said, "we are not celebrating. We are working," in front of a mirror. She invited the hotel's head steward, Uncle Andre, on stage. Andre told a small story. Since that night, more guests look us in the eye. Some add our names to their thanks, and some days people forget. We remind them. Naomi nodded. Gentle reminders. That's the ground for all change. She called Anaya up to speak about accent assist. Anaya ran a short demo, her words appearing in clear captions, the moderator not cutting in, the interruption meter stayed green. Anaya closed. "I used to fear speaking. Now I'm measured by my ideas, not my accent." Applause followed, soft but long. The next panel, Stop Work Authority. Jordan Price, Maya Tan, Rosa, and a project manager from Northbridge Media. They told 3 stories of pulling the brake, An internal meeting, a partner negotiation, a performance review. Jordan grinned. Honestly, pulling the brake is hard. You fear being called difficult, but when the company says, "We've got your back," you can stand tall. Rosa spoke briefly. Every night there's trash bins full, but no more bottles thrown down. Laughter rippled. Not from joy, but from relief. Midway, the interruption meter blinked yellow. A moderator cut Maya off to save time. Naomi raised her hand. Stop work. The room paused. The moderator flushed, nodded. Sorry, Maya, please finish. That small moment was the real lesson. Rules aren't on paper. They live in habits the community defends. The Dignity Portfolio segment followed, with Graham Pierce and Diego Ramos presenting. $150 million invested in 7 companies, each meeting a dignity index of at least 80 and signing bilateral dignity clauses. 2 pilots already active, flexible shift scheduling at a private hospital, burnout rates down, and speech balance tracking at a software firm, interruptions down 30%. Graham looked out. Money follows values and comes back as results. At the close, Elliot Stone was invited on stage. No speech, just a story. His mother taught him that when someone shows you who they are, listen. That night at Four Seasons, Carter showed it, in words and in hand. Tonight, Elliot said, we show through structure. Stop work, dignity index, dignity clause, listen, pay, repair. Words get attention, structures change behavior. The room rose, not in thunderous applause, but as a silent pledge. Naomi closed. If one day we drift, pull the brake on me too. No one is exempt. She bowed. The candles didn't flicker. As the hall emptied, Naomi slipped along the back corridor. The path once marked a service entrance. The sign now read, Employee Entrance. At the end, a man stacking chairs, Carter Drake. No name tag, no mic. He looked up, paused. Thank you for not letting me hide behind a pretty apology. Naomi nodded. Thank you for working, not performing. No handshake, none needed. A nod was enough to hold the circle of the night. Late at home, Naomi found Eli Bennett waiting, both hands gripping the rail. Watch me, he said. I counted 5. He stood straight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then laughed as he fell onto the sofa. Naomi clapped softly but long, just as the room had for Anaya. Small numbers, Eli's 5 seconds, Anaya's 3 uninterrupted minutes, built the wall against bigger storms. She sat down, opened her notebook. Next quarter's goals: raise speaking time parity 15%, lower interruption ratio under 0.8, cut escalation time to 24 hours. Beside it, the paper still pinned. Dignity is operational. She added one more line, and habitual. Outside, the city glowed in threads of light. Elsewhere, Rosa finished a late shift texting a photo, clean bins, no bottles tossed. In another city, Anaya sent a screen capture. Interruption meter, green, all meeting. Jordan dropped a green light emoji. Aisha wrote, has teeth. Graham, has numbers. Selena, has story. Diego, has dashboard. Marla, has people. And back where it began, the ballroom dimmed. No Bordeaux stain on the cloth. Not because it never existed, but because each day someone wipes, someone reminds, someone pulls the brake before another mark can land. Dignity isn't tonight's program. It's tomorrow's shift. And the pen, once meant to sign a $200 million deal, now signs something stronger. A process for people to treat people right. The story of Naomi Bennett, and a $200 million deal erased by a single remark, reminds us that human dignity is never optional. Whether in a gilded ballroom or a night shift hallway, How we treat each other is the true legacy. What do you think? In daily life, what matters more to keep an organization strong, numbers or human values? Share your thoughts below. And if this story gave you something to reflect on, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next video.